My name is Betsey Batchelor, and I was invited to be the juror this year for the Central Pennsylvania Festival of the Arts. And I was asked to say a few words about the jurying process. So hopefully I can demystify it. I know anybody who enters a show is always kind of wondering, well, what are they basing this on? What's the criteria? So hopefully I can shed some light on that. But first, I just want to thank everybody for the opportunity to review your work that was submitted for the exhibition. I enjoyed looking at the diversity and the range of work, and also kind of thinking about what are people doing? What have they been doing in the past more than 15 months as we've gone through this really challenging time with the pandemic? And I saw that some people were responding to the feeling of isolation. Some were responding to a feeling of loneliness. I saw work that was a response to political upheaval. And I saw a lot of work that is art which can be a great respite. I mean, I think we all know as artists that art can sometimes really save us, and that we can turn away from the world and go into the studio and make work about our experience in the world, or create work that is an alternative world. That art has the ability to restore us. So thank goodness we had that. We each had that for ourselves. Jurying a show like this, where the work is really varied and diverse, and I wasn't asked to curate a show, but to jury a show. And as everybody knows, there was no theme or no prompt. So I was looking at each work as its own piece and trying to identify quality. And I think that I viewed this as an opportunity to revisit what is it that I value about art. How do I define quality? And of course, we each as artists have to do that for ourselves. What is it we're trying to do? What are we after? How do we know when one of our own works is good? What we want it to be? And it reminds me of what I think as the best quote I have ever heard about this. And that is something that Philip Guston said when he was asked about how do you define quality? And his response was, how many senses does it give to the questions, what is it and where is it? I think there's a lot to unpack there. So I offer that. For myself, I think a lot about what I value the most really is what I call authenticity. Not to be confused with originality, but authenticity, and which I think is something that you can feel when you look at a work. And if I can explain that, I believe it's the product of the experience that the artist has with their work as they're making it, with their subject. And that on a good day, our connection with our work is so seamless. We're so deeply connected. It's not about us. It's that, and the separation between the artist and the subject begins to disappear. And then amazing things happen. And it's almost as though we, or the self, disappears and we become conduits for the experience of engaging with the subject. And again, I think that shows in the work. It's something that one can sense. An example of that, or another way to illustrate this is I think about acting. I think about actors. And actors want to inhabit the character that they're portraying. They don't want us to see them as being actors pretending to be this other person. They want us to completely believe that they are that person. And I think that's what happens when the way they connect with this character, I think the same thing is what happens to us in the studio when we're so connected to the subject. And it also leads to a felt response that we have with the subject. And so I'm always kind of looking for that. And it can be any kind of work. I think this can show up in any sort of work at all. It's not limited to any particular art form or any particular subject matter. And I would also say that the other thing I'm interested in is when art also addresses the inherent qualities of the medium. So in photography, perhaps that could be time, because it's about time, or it could be about light. I mean, photography has changed and the technology so much, it could be about other things as well. With painting, it could be about color and shape or mark. And to illustrate this, I would offer somebody like Vermeer. If you look at his paintings, look at that painting of the woman in the yellow coat, gazing. And the painting is beautiful, and we can enter this world of the painting and the beautiful kind of light and the sense of solitude and quiet in the work. But if you look at that painting, you also can tell Vermeer was loving this yellow coat she was wearing, and the fact that the coat is a shape. And then the negative space that's right next to that is the same shape, inverted, turned upside down. And I think he loved that. And it helps create a sense of relatedness between the parts. It's another perfect example of what Philip Guston is saying. Like, how many senses does it give to the question, in this case, what is it and where is it? Is it a yellow coat? Is it a woman? Is it a shape? It's all of those. It's all of those things. It's many senses that allow us to have a richer experience of the subject. So I'm always really interested in that as well. Skill and facility are certainly important, and I'm a teacher and I want all my students to really work at skill and facility, but I'm always mindful and always talk about understanding that skill is intended to be at the service of the felt response. It's intended to be at the service of what it is you're trying to express. It's not an end. It's not an end in itself. So again, I keep going back to, I want, when I look at work, to have access to what was the artist, what were they feeling, experiencing, thinking, what was the nature of their experience. And then a word about the jurying process. I did this over a period of about 5 days. The first day I went through the work, all of the work. I looked at, enlarged, clicked on each image, enlarged it, looked at it carefully, and I went through it all of them about 3 times. And then I was asked to select 62, which I did that. The next day, I did the whole process all over again. I wanted to make sure that it looked the same way to me, that I wasn't missing anything. I made a few adjustments, and then I did it again. I did it again the next day, and I did it again the next day. And I have to tell you that I have a pretty good visual memory at this point of all the work that was submitted to the exhibition, because I really tried to be respectful and take a look at everything that's there. I have to tell you, it was kind of agonizing that this idea of choosing prizes and awards was not easy at all for me. And I did it over a period of several days. I changed my mind. And sorry, that's my dog. And then I have to say, what I really wish is that I had been able to acknowledge other works, because there are other ones, it was kind of heartbreaking. Oh, I want them to know that I think this is really good. So my hope is that this offers a little bit of window into the process and how I chose what I chose. Thank you again for giving me this opportunity. And finally, the one thing that I would say is just do what you love. Continue to do what you love. That's the most important thing. Stay connected to what it is you feel about your subject when you're working. Understand it's not just about skill. It's about the human experience. Okay? Thank you.